The wonderful Imelda May joins us for a chat and tells us all about her life in lockdown and about a new album. It's her first in 4 years.
Imagine trying to capture this. We catch up with press photographer of the year, James Crombie, in studio a little later on.
Billy Keane is here with his take on the stories from the regional newspapers around the country, including a great tale of an everyday heroine.
Wade Murphy is in the kitchen tomorrow with his take on Toad in the Hole.
You often hear the expression once in a blue moon. Well, do they exist? David Moore from Astronomy Ireland is here to tell us about next week's supermoon and also to talk about the magic of the universe.
That's right, we have a very busy show. It's been a tough year.
She's going to tell us all about her first album, boy. It's the first in nearly 4 years.
Can't believe that about it. There is a supermoon next Tuesday as well. David Moore from Astronomy Ireland will be telling us all about that and lots more. Dina Fanaig na Vogri. Welcome back to the show. We are all fascinated by the skies above us, and next Tuesday we are all very excited about a supermoon, and here to tell us all about that and lots more we have David Moore from Astronomy Ireland. David, great to have you on the show.
Thanks very much, Doug.
We are fascinated, really, aren't we, when we look up, and there is so much to see.
Yeah, well, I certainly am, and you know, I've been doing this for decades now, and the amount of material that you just can't read up on, or things you can't go out and see, is a crying shame. Yeah. So there's just so much to see. During lockdown, of course, people couldn't travel, but the universe travelled to you. Yeah. I've been trillions of miles during the lockdown, and so have thousands of other people.
Now, you could use binoculars and telescopes and so on and so forth, but there's loads we can see with the naked eye.
Yeah, your eyesight will do just to get you started. You can learn the star patterns, the constellations, things like the Plough, the Cassiopeia, which looks like a W shape. They're very easy to find in the sky. We have.
So tell us about this one. What is this?
This one here is that's a W of Cassiopeia. So you see, it does look like a W, and it's pretty obvious. And there's 5 stars are roughly the same brightness. They're not the brightest stars in the sky, but easily seen even from the suburbs. Yeah. So if you locate that, then you found the constellation of Cassiopeia, named after Queen Cassiopeia in mythology.
Yeah, we have the Plough here as well. I think people.
The Plough, I think,
is this the most familiar one? People would know this more than anyone else.
Yeah, for us here in the Northern Hemisphere, definitely, because in Ireland it never sets. So it's up every night, all year round. 7 stars, making that sort of Big Dipper shape. It's an old style plough. It had a blade and a handle pulled by a horse. Yeah. Really, it looks more like a giant ladle.
And with the Orion one next year as well. Again, people will be familiar with this, David.
Yeah, now this you'll see in the evening skies. You only see it in the winter, so it's coming to the end of its show. But just after it gets dark, if you look in the southwest, you'll see those 3 stars in a row, Orion's belt. So you can see that this pattern actually does look like Orion the Hunter. It looks like a man. Yeah. You can make that pattern out. Some of the rest of them you need a good bit of imagination to see.
Why can you only see it during the winter?
Well, it's because we're going around the sun.
Yes.
And when we're in a few months' time, basically Orion will be behind the sun. So you have to view in daylight when you can't see any stars. So when we go around the far side of the sun's behind us. Now we're looking out into deep space, and there's Orion in all its glory.
In all its glory. Now you can use binoculars like this. These only cost you 40, 50 quid if you want.
In fact, those ones are about 20 quid.
Okay.
Today, thanks to Chinese mass producing them in pretty good quality, you can get a pair of binoculars for 20 quid. And the way you rate them is how big the front lens is, at least for astronomy. Because the wider that lens is, it's replacing the pupil in your eye. And they'll collect 50 times more light than your eye. That's a huge jump. If you jump 50 times above from those binoculars to a giant telescope, you've got the biggest telescope in Ireland. So it's a very significant jump. You'll see star clusters, galaxies. There was a brilliant comet last year, another one coming at Christmas. And some of these things you can faintly see with the eyes, and they become glorious in a pair of binoculars.
But even in telescopes, they aren't that expensive either.
No, again, thanks to the Chinese. And when I was a kid, in real terms, as a fraction of your salary, telescopes are about 10 times cheaper now than they were back then. They're all made in Japan back then. They were very expensive on Japanese wages. There's really very little technology in binoculars are telescopes. They're just curved lenses. You have to get the curve on the lens very accurate. But that's labour, and one thing the Chinese are very good at.
Yeah. David, when you were starting out, like you didn't have any apps or like even, I suppose, modern computers, if you like, how did you find your way in the beginning?
Well, we had to use, we went old school, we had to use star maps, and there was this big star map that you could get over a metre wide, and you couldn't really hold it up at night. So I had 2 giant sheets of cardboard, glued the map to them and hung it like a big picture on the clothesline with a torch. And there's the plough. You can use the plough to find the North Star, and if you go beyond that, you come to the W of Cassiopeia, and then you find all the lesser constellations. There's about 88 constellations in the whole sky, and you learn the stars that way. And I can still remember most of them to this day. Although today there are apps that you can hold them up. The phone will figure out what angle you're holding them at, where you are on the planet, and it'll actually draw in the lines between the stars as well. And you can get information on each star, how far away it is, things you would have had to look up in books in the past. Some of them will even talk to you.
See, David, I think that's great in one sense, right? You put your phone up and there you have all the answers. But for you, does it take away some of the fun you had exploring yourself and trying to work out what's what and where is what and what's happening?
A little bit. It's probably like shooting fish in a barrel and claiming that you're an angler. The purists would say that's not really fishing.
But you still get to eat the fish at the end though.
Exactly, yeah. So if you're hungry, it's a great way of doing it. If you're thirsty for knowledge, you can find it all about the stars in the sky very quickly. So yeah, there are loads of them. So the more the merrier. It gets people interested in space. That's what we're all about.
Now, there is a special moon on Tuesday. Tell us about that, David.
Yeah, there's a full moon every month, indeed every month. That's where the word month comes from. There are 12 full moons every year. That's the origin of our calendar. And this full moon on Tuesday is very interesting because the moon doesn't go around the Earth in a perfect circle. It's slightly squashed. And also the Earth's not at the centre of that. It's off to one side. So there's times when we'll be a bit closer to the moon than at other times. It's about 15% difference, 1 in 7. But that can make the moon look 30% bigger and brighter. And we call those supermoons when the full moon coincides with the moon being closest. And there's actually 4 of them this year, and this is the best one. It's slightly closer than the other 3. So that's going to happen on Tuesday. And in fact, you see a moon rising there. The moon will look full to the naked eye for about 3 nights. Yeah. So if it's cloudy on Tuesday, I think the weather forecast is actually very good. The night before and the night after, check it out. And there's another thing that happens. Just as the moon is rising, there's an optical illusion called the moon illusion, which makes the moon look bigger. So it really is bigger, and it's going to look bigger. So that makes for really spectacular full moon rising.
We've often heard the term once in a blue moon. What is a blue moon?
Yeah, a blue moon, well, the moon can appear blue occasionally, unpredictably, when there have been giant forest fires or huge volcanic eruptions. I think the last one was in the 1950s, so they are very rare, and you can't predict them.
Huge news from Mars this week.
Mars you're going to hear a lot more about. You can see it yourself in the sky if you go out. As soon as it gets dark, look over in the west. There's an orangey coloured tinged star. It's actually the planet Mars. It's not the brightest thing in the sky at the moment.
Can you see it with the naked eye?
Easily. Even if you live in the middle of a city, you would see it. It'd be in the top 10 or 20 brightest stars in the sky. It's not really a star, it's a planet, which are much closer and much smaller than real stars. And I remember on February the 18th, when NASA landed its Perseverance rover on the planet, we told people to go out and look at Mars live. And I was out, it was actually clear that night, once in Ireland, and I was watching live as the craft landed and streaming the video and watching all the controllers jumping with joy that it had survived. And of course now it's landed a helicopter or flown a helicopter on the surface of Mars.
How significant is that really, David?
It's huge. The aerial exploration of Mars has now begun. It was only a technology demonstration mission, so it's not going to do much other than fly, to prove it can fly, because on Mars the air is 100 times thinner than the stuff we're breathing now. In fact, it's the same as being 100,000 feet up, and the highest helicopter we've ever flown on the Earth is 40,000 feet. So for this thing to fly that high, it had to have special rotors, carbon fibre, extremely powerful motors. No one was sure it would work. The calculations said it should, and now they've proven it did. So there'll be future rovers that will have helicopters with them, which can scout ahead very quickly. Because what people don't realise, these rovers, we have 2 of them trundling around Mars in the moment, they move at 1/10 of a mile an hour. They crawl along like snails, very carefully, so they don't get, over the years they do travel a decent distance, but they can't just zip over to a rock and zip back. That's a whole day's work.
It doesn't work like that at all.
So this one, the Perseverance rover, actually has a laser, and it shoots rocks in the distance and vaporizes them and analyzes the light that comes off them rather than going over to the rock. Now we can have rovers. And once there are people on Mars, and the world's 2 richest men have said they're going to put 1 million people on Mars by the end of this century, and they've both got space companies launching satellites. So we don't really see what's going to stop them.
Oh my God, David, I'd give all day talking about this. It is fascinating stuff. David, thank you very much for being with us today. Great stuff all together. Now it is competition time for you at home, and we have €1,000 in cash up for...
You're very welcome back to the show. Our next guest is a sports photographer who, in what was a relatively quiet year for sports, still managed to reach for the stars to capture some of the most amazing and very different images, both on and off the pitch.
Maura, he was the man who put the hurler on the moon, and he broke the internet with an image of a bird-shaped murmuration. James Crombie, you're very, very welcome to the show. Can we start with the hurler on the moon?
Yeah.
Who is this and how did it come about?
So it's an image I had an idea about 10 years ago, and it just took a little bit of planning. So it's actually my twin brother, believe it, hurling on the moon, and he was well up for it when I came up with the idea. So it's on Croton Hill in Offaly, and yeah, it went crazy afterwards. It took a bit of planning. I had a friend of mine, Colin Hogg, who's a geophysicist, whatever they do, and he was able to do the maths on where we needed to be and what distance we needed to be from him to give that impression. Like the moon isn't that big, but it's not photoshopped in any way. It's just
How close are you into this?
I was a kilometre away.
A kilometre?
Yeah, just under a kilometre, about 980 metres away. So yeah, it's lens compression. It's a big long lens. Like you can see the moon when you're it being big, but you try to take it with your phone. It never looks as big, but it's due to the big long lenses we have. So yeah,
Superb.
Yeah, I actually gave him a football because I had an idea it was going to be quite a talked about image if everything worked out. And we were really lucky the way the weather. It was a clear night because 20 minutes earlier it was cloudy, and the night before and the night after it was cloudy because I went down to have a look either side of it. So it just was the perfect clear night, and I gave him a soccer ball because I said, like, good knowledge hurling is if it does go kind of global, I'm not too sure if people are going to figure out what's going on. So I gave him a soccer ball as well, and he actually let it fall, and it went down the hill. He has headphones on, and I have headphones on, and I'm saying, okay, throw the hurl down now, bring out the soccer ball, and he goes, I let that fall down the hill 5 minutes ago. So there was no soccer picture, and I think some American person commented and said, "Is it something to do with the the spoon and the moon? That's that nursery rhyme."
The moon.
You say, yeah, whatever, just get it, make it away.
Yeah, I know it's hurling. So.
Do you know what I love about your photography is that you're talking about, you're almost scientific in your approach, and it takes a lot of prep, which brings us to the next one. My favourite one that you brought is this murmuration in the shape of a bird. Now, this took a lot of setting up as well, and waiting, not so much setting up, because you can't set up this, but tell us about this one.
Yeah, that took about 60 nights over from about the last week in November to the middle of March, or the start of March. I think that happened on the 3rd of March. Just 60 nights. There's a lake near Oslough in Westmeath, and again I had my friend Colin, because he lives actually on the lake, and we just became a bit of a project to actually start trying to get a good image.
What is this murmuration of? Is it starling, or what is it?
It's starlings, yeah. It's hundreds of thousands of starlings forming a shape. Now some nights they're not spectacular, some nights it's just they fly over and back. I think they're going to roost. There's reeds all around that lake.
See, people would say, you know what, now you photoshopped this.
Yeah, I was lucky to have the video to go with it to actually prove. And you can even see, I think there's a little bird at the end who didn't actually catch on.
But even the shading, I mean, what is perceived as shading when you see it. Now, we're showing the video here, the footage of that, but even the shading there, it's almost like a flapping of a wing, isn't it? You see the way
it's remarkable. It is and even if you look at the shadow on the wall as well, Maura, it's unbelievable. Oh my God!
It was worth waiting for, James.
It was. I couldn't believe it. And even on the video, I say it's a bird. It's a big bird straight away, because I actually knew I could see it. You could see the image, and sometimes through the camera. Like there was plenty of nights where they made interesting shapes, but and I kept going back. Everyone, my father was telling me, "What are you going there again for?" And like I missed dinner. I think for about 60 nights, because it happens at sunset, and that time of the year, it sunsets between when we started the project, it was about 4:10. By the end, it was about 6:30.
What month?
So it's generally over winter, so it's like December, January, February.
Cool to be out in those nights for 60 nights.
The locals say that there was frost in the lake some nights, there was snow, there was beautiful evenings, there was every kind of weather conditions, and it became more of a kind of, they moved around to different locations, so myself and Colin started to get some kind of pattern, so we kind of knew that if they were here for a few nights, the next place they're going to go is over there. So if we missed the night, then we had to say, well, did they move the night before, or did so? It just became some nights you just had to go and just try to figure it out.
I'd imagine the excitement when you're actually capturing this live, James, must be unreal, is it?
Yeah, it was. Like, I'm a sports guy, so a sports photographer generally, so we're used to capturing, you know, things like goals in All Ireland finals and, you know, international tries. So you're a little bit, you're just hoping that you actually didn't make a mistake and you got it.
You brought your camera in, 'cause we would know, James. So COVID has been good in one weird way to you, because you got to try different things. You know, when you think about it, because often someone like you would be away a lot, following the games, rugby, whatever. This is one of the cameras you'd use when you're doing the tights of the rugby players or GA or whatever. We see those great moments. You brought it in to show us. It's quite a big thing, isn't it? A big yoke.
Yeah. It's actually not that heavy. Like, you kind of get used to it, and a lot of people.
So you'd be lying down. Often we see guys like you on the pitch lying down, and you're kind of looking through your lens. There.
Are you just scanning at that stage, see what you can pick up?
Yeah, you're following the game really. Like, you're trying not to miss anything. You're trying to, like, at some stages I'd have maybe the game on in a little AM radio or FM radio just to kind of keep track, because you can get distracted. You can start to wander.
There's a fight up in the corner and all of a sudden you're
murmuration.
I've often heard after a game that, you know, did you see that?
Hold it up there.
Did you see that? Did you see that sending off? And I was here sending off. So you try not to miss it at moments like that. But occasionally you do.
So how many pics do you take at a time?
At a game you could take, it takes I think about 10 frames a second or 11 frames a second, so really, do you want me to give you a bit of a demonstration? So I'll just kind of,
It's like a machine.
So, now if you were to shoot like that the whole game, you'd fill up your memory cards quite quickly, and you wouldn't be able to edit.
But it's not
so
a
much
zoom,
stuff,
you see. People think these things are zoom. You're not zooming. It's a fixed lens, but obviously the lenses are wider or tighter or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay,
like
very good.
There's a 4 and a 6 and a 5, so there's different. This is the 4 because I like it.
It's cool, isn't it?
You can
very cool.
You can put an extender on it as well. So.
We thought that was John McCurrick, you know, the racing guy. It's not him.
No. It's just it's a Cheltenham punter at I think the 2018 Cheltenham Festival. So it was my one and only time at the Cheltenham Festival, and it's a great experience. I got a lot of came for a lot of heat last year, but you know, Ireland are quite good at the horse racing these days. So yeah, it's an interesting image. It kind of looks a bit like I don't know. Some people kind of said it looks like a reptile or something.
And they're all. What are those things around?
Well, you get them going into all the racing,
aren't they? And they just some of them just keep them.
They're kind of special access areas for lots of people.
Yeah.
Say if you're an owner or a trainer.
God, your man's be exhausted carrying all those things around.
But it's kind of a pride thing as well.
I know it is. I see them. Yeah, they're
racing. You can see all the different venues use that. I actually have that framed in my bathroom. I don't know what that means about me, but I think it's a good bathroom image.
It's cool. I love the colours. I think it's so vivid, you know, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, there's history there and everything. James, congratulations. You're after winning loads of different awards. Are you Press Photographer of the Year? Yes,
Press Photographer of the Year for 2020. So that was a bit of I was shocked actually when I found out. I worked hard last year, but you know, for a sports guy to win it, it's kind of a bit.
It was an odd year as well, James. 2020.
It was hard for press photographers. Like, press photography is not an easy job at the moment for anyone with restrictions and, you know, certain. You know, there wasn't that many political things on because everything was kind of restricted. So maybe it worked to my advantage in the year that was in it. You know. But I had about 3 months off where there was no sport, so you know.
But we should just say before we let you go that you did come to this through an RTE show. This career, is that true?
Yeah, 2006. I was lucky. Info Sports Photography linked up with RTE, and they'd done a kind of a reality TV show.
What was the name of the show, James?
No Experience Required.
Did you ever hear it, Mara? Did you?
I don't know. Did we see it? We have no clip.
What do you think you could actually add to us by being here?
I like to win, so.
Like to win?
I do.
That's good. Like a bit of winning.
What's your, your level of experience, for example, if you were to create the minimum depth of field in a photograph, what would be key? I think it would be the appendage. I think you heighten the appendage. Maybe not.
The aperture.
Aperture, sorry.
You learned the right pronunciation.
I had hair back then, despite my.
I just think this is brilliant for people watching though. You know, in 2006, look at you now, it's fabulous.
Yeah, look, Info's been amazing to me. I've travelled the world with them. I've been to the Olympics, I've been to the Lions Tour in New Zealand, I've been to the European Championships, I've been to Russia with Connacht Rugby, who I do a lot of work for, Australia, everywhere. Like, it's given me so many opportunities to work.
Do you know what I really like about that clip there is all the awards in the background there, if you look back at it, and all of his awards here in front of us today.
Yeah, that's
It's
mad.
great.
Well done, James.
James,
Billy's
thanks
won
so
plenty
much
of
for
them.
coming in and showing us your fabulous work, and of course for the company as well. It's great that you can get to do all that and more. So listen, thanks so much. It's brilliant.
Great to have you, James.
Thanks very much, guys. Cheers.
So images from this year's PPAI Awards, you can visit, of course, their outdoor exhibition. It's on at the Lexicon Library and Cultural Centre in Dunleary. You can check out ppai.ie.
Now a different type of competition, Maura, competition for you at home. We have €1,000 in